right, Kaylee, a lot of appointments we have to keep. Right now, the U.S. opening a new front in its campaign against Iran, launching a rare daylight strike after President Trump reportedly huddled with his national security team the next phase of the conflict. Well, I'm John Roberts in Washington, and we bid good Wednesday afternoon to you.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, John. Nice to see you in this afternoon. I'm Jillian Turner in for Sandra today, and this is America Report. So that U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz has resumed. At least 2 ships turned away over the last 24 hours. CENTCOM also says American forces have hit Iranian positions on Greater Tunda Island, a strategic location in the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump tells Fox News Iran has a choice now. They can return to the negotiating table or else face a new wave of strikes targeting power plants, bridges, other critical infrastructure. Vice Admiral Robert Harward joins us in moments. First, we got Fox team coverage for you. Trey Yingst is here in Washington. He has new details from his sit-down with the president. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin kicks us off. He is reporting from Tel Aviv this afternoon. Hey, Mike.
And, Jillian, that rare daytime air raid syncs with what President Trump has been saying, that there's nothing Iran can do about it. But that round of strikes is now over, and night is now falling in this part of the world. So we wait to see if there will be a 5th consecutive night of strikes. Most of these strikes have been on the coast of Iran. According to Central Command, the narrative, anyway, is that the U.S. has been hitting the capabilities of Iran to threaten shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. And this follows 7 commercial ships that were hit crossing the strait. U.S. Admiral Brad Cooper said nearly a dozen crew members are missing, killed, or injured by the Iranian strikes. Now, the U.S. blockade is active. CENTCOM says 2 commercial vessels have been turned around. The president says the blockade means the strait is open to all commercial traffic, except for vessels that stop at Iranian ports. Now, Iranians who have spoken publicly say they can endure the blockade.
It will create disruptions. This economic blockade has certainly caused disruptions. But with people's resilience, we will certainly get past this historic turning point.
The United States is seeking our destruction, and it will do whatever it can to achieve that.
Here in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says he has a trip planned for the United States now for the funeral of Senator Lindsey Graham, but the timing is not locked in on that. Now, Netanyahu's office says he does want to meet with President Trump while he's in the state, but, of course, nothing is locked in. Jillian, back to you.
All right, Mike. Thank you, Mike. In Tel Aviv for us this afternoon. Thank you. John?
All right, let's bring in Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst. Spoke exclusively with President Trump at the White House yesterday. Great to see you this side of the Atlantic Ocean, my friend.
Nice to see you.
Great to be here.
You've been doing great work over there. We should point out in the interviews that were in Mike Tobin's piece, I mean, it's not like you're going to hear a dissenting voice, right? Wanted to get your assessment of where you think the situation with Iran is on the ground now.
After speaking with the president, it is clear that he is no longer negotiating at this moment. He is striking. And he indicated that these strikes we've seen the past 5 nights are going to expand. And we're already seeing that today on the ground. U.S. Central Command announced that at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, daylight, in Iran, there were strikes taking place. And these strikes are starting to go further inland. An indication that energy infrastructure not yet being targeted, but they're getting closer and closer to these larger targets that the president indicated he is willing to hit by next week if the Iranians are unwilling to make a deal. Remember, there was the Memorandum of Understanding, this 14-point plan that was agreed to by the United States and Iran. Well, the Iranians violated it. They attacked vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, and that led U.S. forces to begin this new strike campaign.
It strikes me, Trey, that the administration can get touchy when people ask about defining this engagement. Is it a war or not? When is it going to end? What does the timeline look like? You had the unique opportunity to ask the commander-in-chief himself yesterday. Want to see your thoughts after we played that bite.
Has the war resumed?
Well, I guess you could define it any way you want, but certainly we're beating them up really badly. They have to be beat up. The only way you can negotiate with these people is through strength, and the only strength is military strength, and that's what we've done.
Why do you think the resistance to defining this as a war?
I asked the president again later in the interview, is it fair to characterize what is happening right now as a war, the war resuming? And he said he didn't want to get into the specific language about that, but he said this is the resumption of a full-scale military operation, a large-scale military operation. And so it's an indication that what we are seeing on the ground is certainly not just the tit-for-tat that previously took place when there were violations of this agreement between the United States and Iran. And again, the president is not just saying this about the strikes today. He is signaling that by next week, if a deal isn't reached, these strikes are going to expand. And he's talked about power plants and bridges before and ultimately didn't make that decision. He's also talked about desalination plants, and he says he won't target those because the civilian population in Iran, more than 90 million people, would pay the highest price in that instance.
Total humanitarian catastrophe.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And that is certainly on his mind. We talked about a variety of different things, including the Manab school strike investigation that is ongoing, according to the Pentagon and the White House. And he said that ultimately it may never come to a conclusion. I pressed him on this and presented the evidence that we have, and ultimately he said it is possible this was a mistake or something based on old intelligence, but he said to wait for the outcome of that investigation.
Yeah, I think in terms of whether this is a war or whether it's a military action, the folks across the street from us might have something to say about it if the president were to say, oh, yes, it's a war, because Congress has the power to declare war, not the White House. But I want to ask you this question about the president, because you've talked to him several times on the telephone while you've been over there. You sat down with him yesterday. Has he finally caught on to the fact that the IRGC doesn't want to negotiate with him, that they just want to cause trouble, and that the only way to move forward is to either completely defang and neutralize the IRGC or get rid of them altogether?
There's a real understanding in the White House that they are dealing with two groups of people inside of Iran. You have these relatively more moderate voices, the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, and also Iran's parliament speaker and top negotiator, Mohammad Ghalibaf. But when they make a deal, the question is, as journalists, that we must continue to ask, do they have the power to enforce an agreement? And at this point, it doesn't appear that they do. And there are these IRGC commanders that want to continue the fight against the United States.
Because there are people that we talk to on a daily basis, and I think we're about to talk to one, Robert Harward as well, who see that the only way to deal with the IRGC is to deal with them in the same way that the president dealt with ISIS.
And I asked the president about this because you have these hardliners who, again, it's not just the deeper installations, the nuclear facilities and the command centers and production lines inside of Iranian territory. When you look at this coastal area next to the city of Bandar Abbas, right on the Strait of Hormuz, into the Persian Gulf, the Iranians can disrupt billions of dollars worth of international shipping with a small whaling vessel or a drone or a cruise missile, things that they still do have in their arsenal. Now, the president wouldn't indicate how many missiles the Iranians have left, but the bottom line here, Iran can continue to try and disrupt shipping, and it raises this broader question about how the president is going to handle this Iranian regime that at this point appears unwilling to make a deal.
The president had set this past Saturday, which has come and gone, obviously, as a deadline for the Iranian regime to admit publicly that all the strikes on commercial shipping was a big mistake. They obviously didn't. But there was reporting that they did so sort of privately behind the scenes to senior Trump administration officials. Do you have any sense of if that happened or not? What's
interesting is there are clearly back channels with the administration and the Iranian regime. I asked the president, when was the last time you spoke with an Iranian official? And he said, my team spoke with Iranian officials an hour ago. And it gives you a sense of the real-time updates that the administration is getting and also the warnings that they are delivering behind the scenes. You also have these other regional players, Pakistan and Qatar, that are continuing each and every day to try to bring both sides back to the negotiating table and reach a more stable agreement. But the Memorandum of Understanding was a relatively stable agreement, and it was violated. And so the question is, could they reach another deal that ultimately the Iranians will adhere to?
This idea of the president or the negotiating team talking with the Iranians on an almost consistent basis. There are some people, David Ignatius, among them, who are saying the best thing the president could do is stop talking about Iran, stop talking to Iran, just keep the bombs raining down, keep the drone boats going in to places like Bandar Abbas or the U.S. one-way drones, and don't say anything, and let them twist in the wind until they finally get scared enough that they come to Washington with hat in hand and say, okay, let's negotiate. But this constant back and forth allows Iran to, on a daily basis, get PR wins.
It's certainly one perspective. And when you think about what the Iranians are viewing, they are looking at a massive U.S. military presence in the Middle East right now. 50,000 U.S. service members, aircraft carriers, destroyers. You have fighter jets and refuelers staging even in places like Tel Aviv. The Trump administration is prepared for this to unravel further. And the Iranians understand that. And so this idea of what comes next, they have to be calculating. how they're going to approach this administration that at this point is willing to continue the battle against Iran. And right now it's a battle for the Strait of Hormuz and control of that strait. But very quickly these things can unravel and expand.
Well, Trey, thanks for coming in to see us. Don't be a stranger. Come back soon.
All right.
Good to
Safe
see
travels back home.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Congrats on your
Or
interview with
safe
the
travels
president.
back to the Middle East. 'Cause
Yes.
I know home's in Pennsylvania. Thank you, sir.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.